Hi, I'm Stephanie Jaworski of joyofbaking.com. Today we're going to make Mocha Muffins, that delicious combination of coffee and chocolate. So first, preheat your oven to 375 degrees Fahrenheit, which is 190 degrees Celsius, and you need a 12-cup muffin pan. And I've just lined the muffin cups with paper liners, or you could just lightly butter the muffin cups, or even just spray them with one of those nonstick sprays. And so for this muffin, it is, we don't need an electric mixer, we just need 2 bowls. We're going to do all this by hand. You need 1 large bowl for the dry ingredients and 1 for the wet ingredients, and then we just mix them together and that's it. We'll start with the wet ingredients. So in a bowl I have 2 large eggs, and then just use a wire whisk, break those eggs up. And then to that, I'm going to add just 1 teaspoon of pure vanilla extract. Try to use a pure, it has better flavor than the imitations. And a half a cup of flavorless oil, that's 120 milliliters. By that I mean you can use like a corn, a canola, a safflower, a vegetable, even a light olive oil, whatever you have in the house. And using oil instead of butter, while you don't of course get the butter flavor, what you do get is a really soft, moist muffin. And if you did want to put them in the refrigerator, the good part about oil is it keeps them soft even in the refrigerator. And then I'm going to add for the coffee flavor 1/4 cup of just regular coffee, espresso, and cool it to room temperature. So 1/4 cup is about 60 milliliters. Now, if you don't want a coffee flavor, you could just use water in place of the coffee. Or if you only had instant coffee in the house, and just use 1/4 cup of water, and then just maybe, depending on the instructions on your jar, maybe half a teaspoon of the instant coffee or espresso. And then last is a half a cup, 120 milliliters of buttermilk. And buttermilk, we use that because it makes the muffins really nice and tender. Now, you can buy buttermilk. You can even use a buttermilk powder, now they sell it, or you can make your buttermilk at home. You can just take a half a cup of regular milk, either whole 2%, and just add a half a tablespoon of either like lemon juice or a vinegar. Just stir that together, let it sit about 10 minutes, and then you can just use it. So there, we got the wet ingredients done. Now for the dry, we got quite a few things here. We have 1 cup of white all-purpose flour, it's 130 grams. And then I'm going to add 3/4 cup, 95 grams of whole wheat flour. And this adds like taste, texture to your muffin. Now if you don't have whole wheat flour in the house, you could just use a 3/4 cup more of just regular plain flour. But you might, this is a good way to start using whole wheat flour if you've never used it before, is to use, like in a recipe, half the amount. Like in the carrot cake, for example, you could use half of it white flour and half whole wheat. It's a good way to introduce into your diet. And then we have 1 cup of light brown sugar. It's about 205 grams. Now, as you can see here, I have some lumps in my brown sugar. So what I like to do is just run my fingers through and get rid of any of those lumps. Brown sugar has a tendency in storage to get lumps. And then we're going to add 1/4 cup, 25 grams of cocoa powder, unsweetened cocoa powder. You can use either regular or unsweetened, whichever you like. I'm using just the regular unsweetened in this, and I sift it because cocoa powder has a tendency to get lumps. So we'll get rid of that. And then we're going to add 1 teaspoon of baking soda, a half a teaspoon of baking powder, and 1/4 teaspoon of salt. I'm using the kosher salt here. And then we're just gonna whisk all that together. You can do it with a wire whisk, you can do it with your hands. You want to make sure all those ingredients are all mixed together, especially your baking soda and baking powder. You want to make sure that's really mixed in. And then we're going to add a half a cup, 120 milliliters of chopped nuts. I'm using pecans. You could use walnuts, almonds, hazelnuts, or you could just even leave that out if you don't want nuts. You could use some dried fruit instead. And then 1 cup, 240 milliliters of chocolate chips. As you can see here, I'm using a combination of white and just semi-sweet. You could use, you can now buy like cappuccino chips. You could use those. You could use the bittersweet, milk chocolate, whatever you like. And we're just going to mix all that together. As you can see, there's a lot of flavors in this muffin. And then we're just going to add the wet to the dry. Now the important thing when you're making muffins is not to over mix your batter. You just want to get everything moistened. Over mixing tends to cause your muffins to be a little tough. So just keep that in mind. Okay, looks good. Make sure all that flour's mixed in. Okay, so now we're just gonna into our muffin cups. Now you can use, I'm gonna use an ice cream scoop, my favorite, to fill the cups, but you can just use a couple of spoons if you like. Okay, so into the oven now, somewhere, depending on your oven, somewhere between like 18 and 23 minutes, or until a toothpick inserted into the center of one comes out clean. Okay, so our Mocha Muffins are now done. As you can see, they've risen, they're nice and firm, and a toothpick inserted in the center comes out clean. So just let them cool on a wire rack for maybe 10 minutes and then they're ready to serve. But you can also cover and store them at room temperature for a few days, or they can even be frozen. So until next time, I'm Stephanie Jaworski of joybaking.com.